everybody! Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and a very nibbly dog. Kiki, and Queen Quindy, Justin, and John. Hold on, I must expel the bitey demon. Bitey demon, be gone! I expel thee. Luckily, expelling the bitey demon is pretty easy. The bitey demon has been expelled. Oh, yeah, she's full of it today. Full of it. And I'll let you all imagine what it means. Oh, lordy. Yeah, hello, everybody. Sorry, whoever's sick. But, yes, hello, missed him. Oh, there, but you feel my pain, right? Although yours isn't big enough to just jump on you like that. But, yes, 39 months with a hi, Kiki. Thank you. Hello, Kiki says. Nom, nom. That's what Kiki says. Thank you very much for the resub. No, let's not free the Kiki, not unless you want just like nomming on Anne. I suppose we could make a stream of Anne going, but it would be very short and bloody. Hello, everybody. Hello. Oh, my lordy. Lordy sakes alive. So my Reaper order is in Sunnyvale, according to when I checked last night. So it should arrive today. So Old Spice Genie, this is his last chance. His last chance to impress. Before we move on to somebody else. So, what do you guys want to do today? So, we could work on making the bottle look nicer. Let's get our in focus. We did a lot of gold NMM last time, but we could continue to pick out the gold NMM and work a bit on the shoulder pad, and the belt here, and the thing over here. We could continue in the gold back here, and up on the hilt of the sword, which is, shaped interestingly. Glass. It's not going to be, I always thought it was more like a clay jug. But yeah, I'm not doing transparent glass or anything. I'm just going to make the bottle look a little nicer. So, all right, we can do that. And then we're probably going to use the colors that we use here on these little doodads here. And then we'll see what else we can do. We probably could do a bit of the smoke. The easiest thing is just to remember that they're probably not glass. I hate to say this, but I was lectured at a Renaissance fair about this. He's like, when you're carrying around a mug or a container or anything like that at the Renaissance fair or in medieval times, it was not made of glass. It was not made of clay. Both those things are highly breakable and would not last a single day with rough and tumble life. They are made of metal if they are made with anything, or it's a cloth or leather pouch, because it's non-breakable. But I don't want to make it glass. See, that's the thing, guys. This is why I don't like this, model. I guess I can make it glass. It's just like painting NMM only with gemstone. I guess, sure, why not? The problem is, okay, it's up against him. You guys are going to be disappointed. It's not like, I don't think it's a good subject for glass, so I'm not going to paint it like a transparent bottle. If you want real glass, you need to go back and watch the Half-Orc Mage, because she had that bottle that we did do as if it had fluid in it, and I did do all the white around the edges and everything like that. We can try that with this, but it's not going to look as good because of where it is. It's true. It's just... Yeah, the vampires are in Sunnydale. Sunnydale's right down the road from here. Or Sunnyvale. Sorry, Sunnyvale. I always, get the D and the V mixed up. Yeah, it's more like what I actually feel like doing. Personally, I feel this is annoying. If it didn't have the little holder thing on it with the crisscrosses, then we could do something, we could do something inside of it. But with that there, it doesn't give you any room for the illusion. So right away, doing this little designy thing around the outside of the bottle has wrecked any chance we have to do transparent. Yeah, I'm very persnickety about transparent effects, and it has to be how are you going to do it that? You've got a lattice work thing around the outside that is going to essentially interrupt anything you try to do on that level. So you got to think about it. Just because there's a bottle there, it doesn't mean it's a good subject for that, right? If it was clear, if it didn't have that thing around the outside, if it was just simple, we could do it. But because it's got the cozy, because that bottle has a cozy, we cannot. But yeah, I'll do the bottle, but we'll see how it goes. I need my colors. Tropical blue, spectral glow. Okay, I had spectral glow out the other day. There it is. But yeah, if you guys want a bottle subject, then somebody needs to suggest a model that's good, that has a bottle that I can do. But like I said, we already did it on the Half Orc Mage. If you really want like me to talk about, if you want to learn how to do a bottle, the Half Orc Mage is where it's at, and you just look up that model. And Quindy could probably find it and give a link to like the SKU, and then you could look it up on the YouTubes and then just watch it. The bottle is one of the later things that we did on that model. So I'm sure Sunnydale was probably based on Sunnyvale, because isn't Buffy in California? Isn't that set in California? I don't remember. But yeah, it's the cozy though. The real interruption here is the cozy. If we didn't have that cozy, then we could do something translucent. Alrighty, cozy. And I need my shadows. I think I was using like, I was doing purpley shadows, wasn't I? Probably the, runic. Yeah, it looks like it. Runic purple. So we'll use that. And maybe some, I think I already did some runic purple on the glass there. I think I want ultramarine shadow. No, not the female genie, the female half-orc mage. She's holding a bottle. Potion bottle. We decided to make it a potion of fireballs, I believe. Which is why I did red-orange liquid in it. That's the only glass we've done. It's one of those techniques that, like, I feel like in one way, having it up against the model is what you really want, because you're going to be able to do it realistically. But like I said, having this extra detail means that it's not. Yeah, you're on a different planet. It's okay. I'm on a different planet this morning as well. We'll just start on the bottle and then hop around. The bottle has some gold on it anyway. So I'm going to do a bit of a different shader because I want some really dark shadow on the glass parts. Yes, Half-Orc Mage. There we go. So yeah, so it's 3721. So if you go and look up Vanzale on our YouTubes or 3721 on our YouTubes, you should be able to pull up that lesson. But yes, I think that this bottle is a very poor subject for doing transparent. Where did I totally dropped that. One second. Runaway bottle must save because it's my water. Runaway bottle. Oh my gosh, Roger, you sparked a watch streak. Yeah, we have daffodils in our neighborhood. No bluebonnets here. But I'm very happy about daffodils. It's actually my strongest memory, almost. There's two strongest memories from when I visited Scotland, Cerniko. And one of them is of all the daffodils around in Edinburgh. We were there in the spring, because that's like cheap time. Used to be cheap time to go. Don't know if it still is. But it was cold and rainy. Cold-ish and rainy, but it was really pretty. Yeah, it's supposed to actually get up to 60s next weekend, and I'm just like, I can't wait. I'm so there. I'm so done with winter this year. Winter has been long and difficult. I kind of want daffodils in my yard now. I don't know where I'd put them. I assume they're annuals. Or is it perennials that bloom once a year or come up every year? I never remember. Mom would know. My mom would know. She knows these things. I don't know if we have a Cerniko. We might not have a Cerniko. But yeah. All right. And then we need pure white. So this is colored glass. It's going to have a dark shadow. It's going to have a really white highlight. Yeah, I wish, missed him. Like I said, when I was driving home from Arizona and we were still in AZ and we took the like kind of more deserty route, going up instead of just flat over, up to Highway 40. It was like so nice. Like it was 75. It was gorgeous. Windows down in the car, short sleeves. Oh my gosh, it was so nice. Wow. Nice, Thormill. Yes. Yeah, is it perennials that come up every year? Is that like daffodils? Or is that annuals? I never, is perennial. Chibi already answered me. Thanks, Chibi Amy. I never know. Paint question would be a couple of yellow green. It depends. If you want a dark yellow green, any of the olive greens. Like usually that's what I'm looking for. So it depends on how dark the other color you're trying to match it to is though. So like if you're doing a reddish violet and you want a pale yellow green, that would be Dungeon Slime. Dungeon Slime. Everybody's favorite, Dungeon Slime. So you want to, obviously, Roger, you want to alternate. You don't want to have like this same, like you don't want 2 light colors or 2 medium colors or 2 dark colors. So depending on what your other colors are, you'll want to go either light, medium, or dark with your green. So Dungeon Slime is a good example of a light yellow green. And then Trollhide from, or any olive, but Trollhide is a good example of a dark yellow green. Any olive is a yellow green. Because the way you make olive is to add black to yellow. And sometimes you add a little green on top of it, which I think Trollhide does have. So yeah, perennials over here. Thank you. That's ugly. Miss him. Everybody wanted me to do glass, but this is a really poor subject for glass, so I'm going to do it anyway, but I can't really do it translucent or anything. And then a medium yellow-green would be what we used on our knoll, which would be knoll pelt. And that's also an olive, as you can tell. It's got brown in it, so it's muted. So if you want a bright yellow-green, I'm probably looking at alchemical green from... actually, a good medium yellow-green might be Cat's Eye. Depends. Because remember also, it depends on how bright or muted your other colors on the model are. Sure, no problem, Roger. Yeah, moth green is a little bit more green and it's not as light as Dungeon Slime. So if I'm going for a true light yellow green, then I might shade Dungeon Slime with moth green if I need a subtle shadow. Those two do work together. It depends because Dungeon Slime's a little more muted. Moth green is very bright. Very saturated. I hate using the word saturated because it's not really true in that case. Not if you're talking about saturated with pigment. One of my not really favorite Cure songs, but I'll take it, Shadow Raven. Makes me want to go listen to Disintegration. I do not have, I have like, we have Cape irises, I think is what they're called. But they don't get a lot of sun where they are, so they bloom a little bit in the summer, but they don't bloom as much as the ones that have full sun. Some things about our yard are not very well planned, in my opinion. All right, so I did a mix of the ultramarine blue and the runic purple, but I'm really feeling like it's not dark enough. But we'll see. So if our light's coming straight down, we have to treat it kind of like NMM. So we need to have a white highlight and a dark shadow. But with gemstones and translucent objects, you usually don't have a band of regular color in between your shadow and your highlight. You're really shiny, so you pretty much lay down your darkest shadow and then you put your highlight right in it, right on top of it. In crystals, that means you put the white highlight right in the center, or gemstones right in the center of the dark spot. I'm gonna grab pure ultramarine because it's darker. Ultramarine shadow, that is. I just like daffodils because they're yellow, and you all know how I feel about yellow. I'm going to put 2 drops of water in this ultramarine shadow. All right, now I can get this really dark. I do like flowers. We got a lot of desert plants. I'm thinking, actually, we've got kind of this strip of dirt along the back of our house that was kind of an herb garden, vegetable garden, but it's not a very good spot for one. Like I said, previous owner, and not having a good idea about some of this stuff because it doesn't get a lot of full sun. But I thought I could maybe put some succulents back there. All right, so we're blocking in a deep shadow right here. We'll probably also do one. I'm trying to think. This is a difficult surface. If it was just round, I'd end up having it here. And this is where I say it's kind of like difficult because I don't have the full shape, right? My shape cuts off. Normally I would have a shadow area here on the rounded part and then a line and lines of shadow, but I can't because I've got this little thing, the band, that's interrupting everything. So I'm going to probably just do a line of shadow like that in line with the shape. I've got to get a little bit of tropical blue so I can wet blend a bit. Ah, oh no. Look what happened. Now I have blue everywhere, guys. My tropical blue went rogue on me. We have to pause now and clean up a mess. This is why I keep paper on my desk. I also have to pour the rest of that blue back into the, see? It's stuck. This is why you always check. Unfortunately, on stream, I don't because I'm distracted looking at chat and stuff. All right, let's see if I can salvage some of my blue. 1 second. Need giant brush. Yeah, I don't even count that. It's not really a blorf in my opinion. It's like, blorf is when I do it on the model. This didn't affect the model at all. But I suppose it's a blorf. It's a giant blob of paint anyway. So use a big brush and I just dab it back into the bottle so I don't lose all of it. So that was a lot of paint. Probably at least a good 100 drops that got dumped out of this bottle. And I don't want to tilt my palette because I've got other paint in it. So I'm going to grab the edge here. Yeah, this is the first time this has happened in all my streams, I think. And I've done, yeah, what, over 500 now? So we've got that. Now I'm going to clean up the rest of it with a Kleenex on the edge of the palette. Just one of those Fridays. All right. Now we're going to move the palette over, safety to safety. That's what the big brush is, Twisted Oma. Actually, you can use it that way. Once it has paint in it, I'm going to end up changing my thing, but once it has paint in it, you really can use it as a giant squeegee. And salvage probably a good 2/3 of the paint, I'd say. You lose the paint that's actually in the brush, and you lose some of the paint from the edge of the palette, but you can usually get, when it's a big glob like that, it's going to sit there for a while. So I feel like I salvaged some of my paint. Good. All right. And I've still got paint in there. So let's just make sure that there's still a little bit in my palette. And then rinse out my brush and then get a new paper. Oh, Corgi Zoomies. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have picked that up with a pipette, but I actually feel like the pipette wastes more because it goes up the inside. You can never clean out the pipette. I can get a lot of paint out of my brush, I feel like, before I rinse it. But, I mean, it could be about the same thing. Maybe I've just got a mistaken idea about it. So the way to do this is to then put the cap back on and then make sure you twist it all the way down. Twisting the cap all the way down causes the dropper to snick into place, like to crack into place. It's got a little resistance plastic on it, but then when you squeeze it all the way down, it clicks and then it's set. But it's not set like super strong because you can just wiggle it out, right? So that's where when you've got paint on the tip of your dropper and it makes you can see the big blob at the bottom there. When it does that, it'll just lock onto the tip of the dropper. And if the force holding it in there is stronger than the force holding the cap in, it'll just come out. Like I said, fairly rare. Not really like a big thing. Let's see here. I have another piece of paper that's older underneath this. I think I'm going to just get a whole new paper. Whole new paper time. Ooh, a fresh paper. We like fresh paper day. Let me put this in the garbage. There we go. And I'll grab another sheet. Fresh new sheet. Super fresh. There we go. And where's the rest of my paper? Okay, there it is. Excellent. Oh my. Oh no, Quindy. I salvaged most of it. And there's still some left in my palette, so I'm good. Okie dokie. Well, back to work. That only cost us a few minutes. But yeah, that's why the paper is so much easier. The paper is just pick up what I can and then just toss it and get a new sheet of paper. So much easier. Alrighty. So, this is where, if you're gonna do it, let me see what I can find on references. Blue glass bottle. And I want images, but I need an image in kind of natural image. Unfortunately, there's like a bunch of light blue. Okay, so kinda, although this is, I bet, photoshopped. You can kind of tell it's photoshopped. And they haven't quite done it right, but you can see that the line comes down and you've got a back reflection. It's usually pretty easy to figure out this stuff is photoshopped if you look at it. These are out in natural light. So, and they're kind of shaped like the ones we've got. Milk of magnesium bottles. Interesting. So there's a broad highlight here because of the sky, right? And obviously this is in shadow, so you're not getting sunlight. You're not getting a spot. You are seeing the shadow here. And you're seeing that there's kind of a secondary reflection from the grass here. But it isn't quite the same. It's not quite the way that I'd want to do it. So I'm going to keep looking for examples. I want images. I want images in natural light. And that's the hardest part sometimes. Here we go. So this is more like what I'm talking. So this whole starting to make this shape, you know, the kind of like fluted shape that I'm making here. That's what you're seeing here. So you're seeing a bigger with not a lot of backlight, right? There's not a lot of backlighting back here, but you can still see that there is that, and you can see that a highlight is coming up through here, although there's kind of a backlight coming in through that window. So that's a problem with finding references for glass, unless you have some glass that you can use as a reference. Everything's like photoshopped, and it's hard to find one that looks like what you've got. It's kind of, so this again has kind of the, it's almost got that fluted shape. You can see there's more of a highlight here. There's a highlight there. There's a sharp highlight on the rim. Let me see. That's actually a pretty good one. It's a different shape though. It's not quite right, but and you can see through the bottle on this one, right? So this is the thing when we've got it up against a couple things, but again, we've got this cozy around it, so we can't do any see-through stuff. But we see there's a light, there's a shadow, there's a really bright light, there's a massive shadow here. So yeah, all right. So I'm gonna kind of use this as a reference. It was kind of what I had in mind anyway. So. Oh no, that's not true at all, Turgeon. That's the base. That's the bottle base color, so I would have needed it no matter what. Yeah, it's definitely, I would have needed it. So, yeah. All right, let's see here. Then we want to get a lighter shade right around the top of the bottle. And well, Lizana, that's unfortunate, right? At least unfortunate that you didn't match the carpet. So we're kind of doing a little bit more mixing. And I'm going to do a little bit more shadow back here. Now that's a very dark blue bottle, so I do want to keep still a fair amount of light. And if you hear music and crap, I'm going to go and like smack David in a second because his theme music is way too loud and I hear it right through the wall. But we can all make fun of him because he's his TV show of choice right now for miniature painting is Hawaii Five-0. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm hearing that theme music coming out of your room. He's not even a child of the 80s. Not hearing any music? Great. That's perfect because it means my directional mic is working. Because I could hear that loud and clear. So if you guys can't, that's perfect. Excellent. Oh, that's such good news. Okay. So there. Now we're starting to get, it's already starting to look like glass. So hold on, let me get my reference photo again. And it doesn't believe that it's my face with my painting glasses on. There we go. All right, so I got some highlights up here. You're gonna get highlights, you're gonna get that highlight right there on the edge. And that one we can do. Like that. I don't know if it's the new show. I mean, he might be watching the original. I kind of feel like he's watching the original. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe it is a new version of the show. But the theme music like takes me right back. So of the one he's watching anyway. All right, so I want to actually get up here and do a little bit, bring that a little bit back because I want to hit the edges, not the center. I just think it's funny because when he watches things from my childhood, it's like, you can't make fun of the 80s anymore, dear. All right, so we're gonna put this light up here. And I'm gonna do a little bit of wet blending and stippling around here just to get this highlight worked in. Don't want that to be quite that bright. But there we're starting to see it. So this is a lot like gemstones where you got your shadow and then you're popping your highlight like right next to your shadow to give the shiny feel. And then you also have light filtering through, so you're going to have a lighter space back here. I'm going to solidify this highlight here. And then we're going to also do not a pure white, but you remember that this curve here was lighter. So bring it up just a little bit in some area here. The other thing that's wrong with this bottle is it's because it's molded up against the genie, it goes very flat right here. So yeah, just not the ideal subject for a glass bottle, but hopefully you're still learning something from this. But this is very much the way you do gemstones also, because it's anything translucent, glass or gems, crystal. But there's a lot of variance depending on the color of the thing and the shape of the thing in that, so, and how you do it. Yeah, the only downside to those Twisted Omo would be just that you're making more trash, but you know, it's probably a fairly small amount. No worse than all of the cling wrap we use, right? Although I always feel guilty these days when I'm using something disposable instead of something reusable. Trying to figure out how I want to do this back part. I need to get some light. I mean, this looks fine from the front, but yeah, it's not that people like don't have great memories of Wi-Fi, but I'm just like I said, whenever David is watching things from my childhood, I kind of like do the eyebrow at him because he's younger than I am. I'm an inveterate cradle robber, I guess. All right, here. I'm just gonna shade the bottom just because with all this here, you're not gonna get a lot of light, I think, coming through, and I just don't feel like it's feasible to do anything else. But I can do a little bit of watching this in line with the shadow, and then popping a little bit of under reflection in here. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing about some of the stuff out here with water usage, where we're always yelled at and told that we're in a drought and we can't, use enough water to keep our fruit trees alive. But in reality, most of the water usage is agricultural in California. The vast majority. I was kind of look askance at that stuff. I'm just like, seriously? You're gonna guilt regular people who are just trying to do their thing, when in reality it's just that it's easier to yell at normal people than it is to tackle big industry or whatever. Very saddening. It makes me sad. Although, you know what, general population, but we still do. I mean, every choice that people makes, contributes a little. So I still try to be good. It's important to me. Try to be as good as I can be. All right, a little bit of a hot highlight, I think, up here, and a hot highlight there. Got a little bit of the light coming down. Need a little bit more. Yeah, right. In our and here we get right here we started getting them in February, fresh local, right? Because we're really close to the Interior Valley, which is the big farming area of Cali, and the Central Valley, and Yeah, they get our fresh strawberries. I bought a box last week, I think. Yeah, that's ridiculous, Miss Imp. Yeah, because grass is such a water hog. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Like you can't have it both ways, city. You can't like the at that point the citizenry should rise up and start howling for blood. Make the politicians afraid that they won't be reelected. Seems to be the only thing that really makes that impact. So I just want this to look decent from the front, and it looks okay from that direction. Yeah. I have friends who live there. They moved from Pennsylvania. Dog friends. Kiki's brother lives there. Two brothers, actually. Two of Kiki's brothers live there. Vax and Grog both live in Florida, although they're named other things now. I get a little bit of a highlight here because people will be looking at it from this side, so I just want a little bit. So the best thing you can do, because painting glass or crystal is so, or gems is so variable, is really to look up a reference. And then kind of look at the shapes and where the highlights fall. Try to find one that is kind of mimicking the light source that you are doing, and then extrapolate from that. Because it's hard to put together a set of rules for this sort of stuff, because it's so variable. And that's why, you know, class is on, I'd say out of all of them, I think crystals are easiest. Because with crystals, I can definitely put together a rule set for them for faceted crystals. But when you get down to like gemstones, it gets a lot harder. So bottles, every object is different depending on like the glass, the shape, how transparent the glass is. Oh, are we still having Twitch stuff? Oh, yep. In R, that is kind of terrible. Yeah, because you should be able to do that. One of the houses we looked at when we were looking to buy had a big cistern to collect rainwater, and also its own compost tub, like the big ones that you roll, that you kind of like turn over to make your own compost. And they were doing a lot of sustainable gardening with that. It was pretty cool. It was a nice house, but that was the one I really loved, which was Los Gatos. But it would have required so much driving from David that it just wasn't reasonable. It had a big yard because it's up in the mountains. Was in our price range because it was farther away from the city. But the commute would have been just punishing. So we decided not to. Even though Los Gatos is gorgeous, like it is up in the mountains on the way to Santa Cruz. I would definitely live there. But yeah, too much for David. We need to become a best-selling author and have an extra house. That's really weird, Twisted Oma. That water right crazy man. It's crazy talk. All right, just kind of blending in a little bit of my highlights now. So I'm trying to define the shape of the bottle a little bit, even though it's kind of smushy back in the back. But it's starting to look like it's a different texture than other things, and that's what I want. And just like with metal, you can do more variations than just like a couple. Like you could throw an extra, extra highlight streak in here. It's just going to read as if there's more things like interrupting the light or reflecting in the bottle. Like so. So there you go. And actually, it kind of looks like there's like winds in the bottle almost. I kind of like the way it's affected. Oh. Yeah, it's really just kind of weird to me. Like it makes me think about, this is weird, but it makes me think about Native Americans and how they thought when people first came, outside people, when the Europeans came over, they thought that the Europeans, the concept of land ownership was weird to them because it was the land. And it's like, this is what with me, I get that same reaction hearing about this rain thing. It's like, it's rain. You don't own the freaking sky. Like, what the heck? Like, what law gives you the right to limit people collecting water from the sky? Like, it's incomprehensible to me. It just blows my mind. It blows my mind. I'm like, humans, what are we doing? It's so weird to me. But again, it's like bigger entities like trying to impose like that they're more important. Oh well, it is what it is. It's like in Texas, the Texas weirdness that goes in kind of the same vein with all that is that you don't own the land actually under your house. You own maybe an inch. You own just a little bit. You own just the topsoil because they want the rights for the natural gas, right? The city. Like, it's a rare house, unless it's an old house in Texas and where we were. But all new houses are sold with, like, you have to sign off any rights you have to the dirt under your house, pretty much. Yeah, I don't get it either, Agent Marvel, but maybe that it's just less water going into the cycle if you capture it, but I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Anyway, we're going to put some, I think I'm going to go with the green, the Phantom Glow for these little doodad things. Do you guys understand what I'm saying about the glass, about looking up a reference, about alternating your like light and your dark because you want that shininess. You want spot highlights usually. I've actually gone a little more brushed with my texture on the highlights here, which is fine for some glass. It makes it look more like it's like got a whole bunch of like interesting magical stuff going on, which is fine. And it's a bottle on a genie, so probably good. So if I wanted this to be more of a traditional glass, I would have to make my highlights much sharper, much more like a spot highlight, less blended, and things like that. Oh yeah, Nara, yeah. Yeah, it is pretty silly. I'm with you. And again, it's like this ownership concept of things that really can't be owned. I don't know. I don't know. Humans are weird. Like, that's what I'm taking away from this, guys. Humans are weird. So weird. All right. So now we got to tackle I want to tackle these, and I want to tackle the teal here. So we're using Spectral Glow, and I was using some of the blue to shade my Spectral Glow, but I think I'm actually going to go with like a Deep Ocean because I want it to depart a little bit. Yeah, right, Twisted Oma. Yeah. Yep, same thing there, right? It's just different minerals that they're mining. Yep. They don't want you to have anything valuable. Yeah, that somebody... It's just silly. It reminds me of I need to pick up this book, and I don't remember what publisher it deals with, but hold on. I remember the name of it. Let's go and look. I think it's Baen Books. Let me see if I can find it. Nope. I need to like look for it in a different, but I thought it was interesting. Here we go. Yeah, Simon & Schuster, I think. The Art of Survival and the Survival of Art at America's Most Celebrated Publishing House. National Book Critics Award. Interesting. So, let me see if I can find... Because it sounded so interesting. And it's like this. It's rights stuff, right? Essentially, it was like how this publishing house like established how it works today. And back in the beginning, they pretty much rights grabbed everything. Like they were like, no, we get all your rights, and you don't have the rights to your characters anymore, and you don't have the rights to blah blah blah. And essentially, he just saw there were a lot of naive authors who just didn't understand because publishing was in its infancy, like big house publishing was, and he took advantage of it. And so it's a book called Hot House, and I need to pick it up because it sounds kind of fascinating. But it's how copyright and rights like contracts got as weird as they are today. I don't think it's not, I don't know that it's a pottery glaze. I guess that's also shiny. But my shadow placement is wrong for pottery. Pottery wouldn't have the shadow right next to the highlight. Like if it's opaque. So I'm doing a deep ocean mix with Spectral Glow here to see what I can get for a shadow on this so I can give it more of a tealy shadow. But yeah, if it was a pottery glaze, I would want shiny, but not like I don't know. It'd be a little bit different. I would have done it a little bit different. Tristoma, that's funny. I don't know. I could look up a pottery glaze, pottery bottle, and, or pottery container, shiny, and see what that looks like. It's going to look a little bit different. It's not going to have that really dark shadow, I think. That's the difference. You get that dark shadow. You get it on metal, but I don't know if you get it on pottery. Now I have to look. Boom. Okie dokie. I wanted to look up pottery bottle shiny. It almost okay. So yeah, shiny finish. So there is a little bit of a shadow there. It's not as dark though. Might need to make it a little darker. No, I'm not getting what I wanted. I went to images, darn it. I mean images. Yeah, so your shadow isn't as dark with shiny pottery because you don't have the translucency. Oh, wow, that's funny, Roger. That's so weird, right? So weird. So you see a darker shadow on darker pottery, but But on like any mid-range, like this is close to our blue, right? You don't see it nearly as dark of a shadow. So you've got shiny, but unless the glaze is somewhat translucent, you wouldn't get, or it's a very dark bottle. But you can see kind of in this, right? Like you've got a little bit of shadow in here, but it's not as dark. You can still clearly see the pattern. So that's kind of the difference there, is that with, these are fairly shiny. You do need that though, like to do a shiny bottle, you do need some of that shadow to make it look shiny, because that's the difference here is that when it's a shiny but opaque surface, is that you really have sharp highlights, like they don't blend in at all. And that's how you make something look wet as well. It's the same kind of thing. And you do get some reflective, like, but you get very much spot highlight against against the local color, and you don't get like blended. That's so my blending isn't straight up if it was a pot like this. Anyway, and this is what I mean though, like you can see that the highlights and shadows are all different depending on the color, the shape of the bottle. It's just really different. And that's why it's so hard to do. Because you have to kind of learn how it looks, and then you have to like reference your gut. Yeah. Right, but when it is that shiny, there are things you don't see. But this is, I mean, it says more gemstone to me, and it's because I've gone like that, but I mean, I could also deepen my shadow and make it even more so. Yeah. It could be either, I guess. It's kind of like both are shiny, but one is like more see-through and gets you more of a deeper shadow because of the light, the way the light passes through and doesn't pass through, right? Anyway, back to what we were originally doing. But I had to stop and check that, GB, because it was an interesting thought. I'm like, I don't think so, but yeah, if it was a darker color, it would be in line. Somewhere, as it is, it's a beast that's somewhere in between, because I didn't do the just spot wet highlight. And painting things like they're wet, that's something that has been requested on my Patreon. But it's a very hard thing to do. Like, it's nothing that I've tried. And although it is something I've read about and done some study on, in case I do want to do it at any point. The thing with painting things as if they're wet, though, which is kind of the same way as I mentioned, that you paint that pottery, shiny pottery, is you have to really know where your light is coming from. You have to understand where your light is going to hit. And because that's where that pop highlight goes. And then it's the only place it goes, right? If you really want to be good at painting that sort of thing, then when it rains, you need to like look outside after the rain is done, or when it's, still raining, but lightly, so that the surfaces aren't distorted. And really look at how water gathers, like beads of water, and the wet surfaces, how they reflect. And you'll see that they really reflect the light only in a very small, sharp way. So I'm doing just some shading on each of these. I'll come back in and highlight a bit. I kind of feel like it looks like the winds are swirling around in there, like it's air swirls. And I kind of like that for a genie, so... And I have to do this netting over because I only put a really lightweight coating on these little zigzags. But I wanted to get this the shading in and get my teal a little bit more in there before I came back in. Yeah, if it was a gemstone, if it was carved from gemstone, it would still operate like glass, though, I think. Like, because glass and gems are pretty similar, except that gems have more occlusions, probably. And gems are, I mean, it's silica versus whatever stone or mineral your gemstone is from, right? But they're really, really close. I don't know that, I mean, if it was a gemstone that had just been, you know, fashioned into a bottle, I don't think there would be any difference between that and glass. Like, at just a general, like, my gut instinct. This is his last day, Gibson. We're giving up on him. I'm sick of him. He's too big. He took too long. And I don't like him as much as I like Fishy. Alright, so now let's get that netting kind of lined in. I want to grab one of my liners, one of my brown liners probably. He doesn't look bad. It's just he's like so persnickety, and I'm just kind of like I'm out of energy for him. Oh, raindrops. Actually, they're pretty simple. You have one big light. You have like when a raindrop lands on something, and then I mean, yeah, you can see reflections in it. You wouldn't be able to do that at scale though. But then you'll see an under reflection. Hold on. See if I can find it. All right. Oh, and you've got the shadows too. Okay, so yeah, there's some cool stuff. But usually what you're doing, yeah, is you're looking kind of like, see where the light has passed through the drop and made, like you've got your light here and there. You don't usually get a real sharp, the translucency is interesting. These are more like what I'm thinking, except that's not really. But you can see your light, you can see a little shadow behind it. It's interesting. But you've got that shadow around the edge too. So yeah, it can be very challenging to try to do something like this, obviously. Yeah, Gibson, that's Twitch lately. It's been really bad. I'm trying to find like an example, kind of what I'm talking about. Okay. Yeah, water drops are weird. I'm just coming to that conclusion. Water drops are weird. So since it's absolutely translucent, you're getting more of like the light is right there, the shadows behind it. But I wonder if this is the light coming from this direction and that's why you're seeing it that way. That's why you always have to ask yourself, like, here are the lights from above. You've got kind of a darker, went totally the wrong way. You've got kind of a little bit darker at the top, but then you've got a little bit lighter here at the bottom, and then you've got that shadow underneath. It's interesting. Hey, David Weir. Yeah, Twitch is really twitchy today, so. But yeah, whenever you're trying to paint this stuff, that's why go look at photographs. You kind of, like I was just doing, you kind of have to like deconstruct, like, okay, where's the light coming from, and does it fit what I'm trying to do? No, it's been bad for like 3 days. But yeah, with this sort of thing where I don't have it on autopilot, I'm always looking at references to double check my gut instinct on how and where the highlights and shadows should be done. And we're going to do some teal here. At least get this last little gray bit killed. And we'll do some lining. Decided I wanted to fill this in real quick before I lined. Oh, Kiki's a demon today. She's a demon dog. There. She was nomming on me. I think it's because David is home today. He took the day off. And so it's a different, right? It's whenever anything upsets her routine, she gets really excited. Daddy is more of a novelty than mommy is because, you know, I'm home all the time. Yeah, pretty much, Chibi. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line here is, though, if you want something to look a certain way, and it's a surface that is shiny, wet, translucent, really, really look up references and kind of think about them. Try to figure out, okay, why am I seeing this? Can I duplicate this on the item that I want it to duplicate it on? Does it fit? Does it fit with my light source? And it's one of those conceptual techniques. If you want to pull it off, you kind of have to understand the physics behind it, just like with OSL and NMM, just different ways. She's just an excited dog, that's all. Very excited dog. Your corgi's the same way, yeah. So I'd mixed up this mix of tropical blue and ultramarine, or sorry, runic purple that is kind of an indigo, and so I'm just using that for these little ropes, little cords that are attaching things. I'm hoping that Keekster outgrows it a bit as she gets older, but we'll see. Ooh. It is kind of dreary here today. It's supposed to be warmer, but it's not supposed to rain, but it's definitely not sunny. Alrighty. I'll get my liner, and we can crisp up this, and we can paint the cork, which is also gray right now. But we're getting, the bottom part is looking pretty nice. And it is a cool mini. It's just like, it's just so long. Kiki likes the rain. Rain is exciting. Oh yeah, well, okay, yeah, it's too small to do texture, Agent Marble. It's way too small to do texture. I mean, just take a piece of cork and like look at it from the distance you'd have to be standing at to make like that piece of cork be the size. Like, it's just no. It's always like this an average miniature is like the size of you looking across a parking lot at another human. Would you be able to see cork texture at that range? No. No, you wouldn't. You'd see a color. The only models that would be big enough to do cork texture on would be either statues, which are like 1/6, or big busts, 1/10, 1/8, 1/8, 1/6. Yeah, you always got to filter through that. We do, in our hobby, we put texture a lot of places that really we shouldn't, but by the scale, right? Whenever you see somebody doing wood grain, which I do just to, spice up a spear or whatever, or the back of a shield. But whenever you see somebody doing that, you wouldn't really see that, not at that scale. So people are just doing it to, to do it. And same thing with textures. Like I showed you, you could do textures on the knoll, but at the same time, is it realistic? No, not at all. It just adds to the 28mm model. It's just at that point, it's just art. It's just you've decided to do it because it makes good art, not because it makes good sense. So like the texture on the cloth and everything, if this guy was far enough away from me to for me to really see him at this size, like assuming he was as taller than me, I wouldn't be able to see that texture. No. Of course, I can't really see that texture anyway until I get really close. So yeah, maybe, yeah. But yeah, so don't feel like I don't know. When it comes to things like cork, anyway, remember that texture is freehand, Agent Marvel, and freehand draws the eye. So why would you draw the eye to the cork? Of what importance is the cork to the model? It's pretty much zero importance, right? Negative importance. So you would never do freehand on it. So like it'd be different if he was like wearing some sort of I don't know, wooden armor or something where it was very large and kind of centralized up here, then you would. Yeah, I mean, that's where I kind of get a little bit disappointed when I see somebody do freehand on something that's super not important or really the wrong part of the model, just because they wanted to do freehand, but they didn't think about things like composition and, whether it made sense to have freehand there or whether it was even appropriate to have freehand there, But these are the things you learn as you start thinking about this sort of thing more. I mean, and sometimes if you're just painting the model for your own enjoyment, honestly, doing as much freehand as you want is fine. Do textures out your yang, who cares, It's for you. If I wanted to do a micro textures all over a model, and even if it was 75mm, I still could. I would just, not be aiming for realism, for sure. I tend to like realism, though, so that's why I tend not to do such things. With 28mm, you're more suggesting texture by, how you're doing your highlights and shadows. Because if you bring something up to almost white, it's going to make us think that the surface is shiny. And if you don't bring it up to white, it's going to make us think that the surface is dull, right? Unless, of course, everything is dull, in which case then we're thinking you don't know how to highlight. Oh, yeah, go lay down, Kodiak. Take care. So now I'm going to do just a bit of lining around these areas here. If I was starting from base coat again, I'd probably just block all of these lines in the liner, and then I would go back over the top with my mesh color. But at this point, everything is already painted in, so I need to be careful and I need to line. So I'm just using my DaVinci Maestro with very little paint on it, and my liner is thinned about 4:1, I think, because I want a pretty dark line here. It needs to be pretty dark to stand out. And I don't think these triangles are really, these strands are overlapping. They're more like they are actually a mesh, and they're all at the same level. I need very little paint on my brush because I don't want puddles. I want very crisp lines, even when I'm doing small sections, especially when I'm doing small sections. But yeah, I love using realism mostly because then I can use that to really try to show what type of surface everything is. Like ever since I got like into textures, thanks to Kirill, my style started going more toward realism. Because if I know what texture is on a thing and I try to depict it, it lets me give more information about what the thing is to the viewer. And I like being able to do that. Also, there's a challenge in doing realistic textures. So you have to be really, for some textures, you have to be really tight and in control, which I enjoy. But not everybody does. So yeah, when you decide, like, when you start looking at your style and what kind of painting you want to do, if you want to just put textures on everything at 28 millimeter, do it. I will not judge you. As long as you're doing them well. And honestly, if it's just for you, I still won't judge you if you're not doing it well. As long as you enjoy it. Some people get frustrated when I ask them that, or they like look at me confused, like, does that even matter when I say, like, do you like it? Because honestly, if you like it, but it doesn't turn me on, like, that's, who cares, right? You like it, you did it, it's your model. It's like trying to write a novel based on what you think other people will like. It seldom works out very well, and it works out better if you just write what you like, even if it means fewer or no people like what you like. At least you'll have the book, and it'll be what you wanted to do. Although some people really light up at the challenge of writing to market, to try to predict the market, and so that's for them. All right, let's put some highlights in here. Yeah, it makes sense, Roger. Oh, I had my coaching yesterday, my writing coaching. First time I've ever been coached. Decided to go with a different coach for my second one, but I did learn one thing. Like, I made a really good connection. I learned a few things, but I learned one really big thing. I was kind of like, and this is kind of how my brain works, it's trying to figure out, like, what's the best process for me? Like, what's the best way I can set out to write? And I realized as she was asking questions and as I was talking to her, I was like, oh, so writing process, the way that you set about writing a book, is like painter style. And so what I mean is, as far as developing your own style, is the way that we paint is we jump in, we try a lot of different stuff, and over time, as we try all that different stuff, all the different paint lines, all the different colors, all the different brushes, different brush strokes, different palettes, all that, over time we naturally tend to gravitate to a particular set of tools. And those are the tools that work best for us, that we enjoy the most. And it's the same thing with writing process. And that makes so much that's such a no-brainer thing, but it wasn't a no-brainer thing until, like, I made the connection. So yet another way that writing and painting are very similar. Another parallel. I love seeing parallels between them. But yeah, because it's the same thing. As a writer, you're trying, people are giving you all this advice. You're trying lots of different ways to, like, are you going to plot the book? Are you going to plot the book but not very tightly? Are you going to just write the book and depend on your gut? What genre is best for you? What kind of characters do you like writing? And you try all this stuff, and then eventually you kind of, like, settle into, like, the stuff that you want to do, the way you want to do it. And it's the same thing with style. It's very interesting. No, I haven't, Roger. I did just we are doing a limited palette piece right now. Really limited. Yellow Lady. I really enjoy limited palette, but I like to choose the colors myself. But this lady's done with only 4 colors. So she's a fun limited palette, for sure. But yeah, the problem is it usually takes more than a month for me to do a model on stream unless I devote a week to it or something, right? But yeah, I don't do RCL because I've got for RCL the pressure would not be welcome for me because I'm focusing on so many other things. So we've got some nice highlights here now. But yeah, I mean, if you guys ever see a limited palette challenge for the RCL that seems really interesting, like, or really different, you can always, if it like kind of like makes you blink, you can always ask me about it. I suppose it's cheating to ask Anne how you would, you know, make the most out of a limited palette challenge, because I would totally be able to tell you, because it's something I really enjoy. Probably cheating. So how do they do it? Do they give you exact colors, or do they just say, hey, you've got to use a magenta, and here are the colors we call magenta, that kind of thing? Is that what they do? Just random colors, huh? Yeah, see, that's the thing. I like to actually choose my limited palettes. Not cheating at all. Yeah, I mean, so give me an example of like, what's the limited palette this month? I need to get a corky color to highlight that, and I need to use it down here. Let's grab our driftwood brown. Okay, so metallic and blue and yellow, and that's all you can use? Like, that's it? Like, you can't use black and white? You can't use, I don't know how it works, so you'll have to tell me. Or you can use 3 plus black and white. Because there's different ways to do limited palette. Okay, so you can use a black and a white. All right, so it's a 5 color. So that's totally doable. So, and it doesn't matter what you paint, huh? Well, then it's obvious. It's obvious, guys. You use the red metallic. Use the red metallic with the blue and the yellow. And you choose the red color to be like your armor or something on the piece. And you highlight it with the yellow and the white, even though it means it'll be less shiny, it'll still be... So you essentially do demi-metallics. And then if you're going to use the red as a shader, like you're going to build a purple, you also use the black, so you try to kill the metal. Like, you can absolutely make a purple and then put glazes over the top of the regular color or black and kill the metallic out of it. You can highlight everything with white. Or choose a specific white if you want to. So you'd choose based on what gives you the most wiggle room. Because you really don't need the pure white unless something on the model is pure white. So you could go with more yellow white. Depending on if they would count Osirian sand as a white, you might be able to use it. If they won't count that or creamy ivory as a white, then of course you are limited. Then you might go with... Yeah, it's a primary color scheme then, right? Like, if your metallic is the red metallic, then you have a primary color scheme, and you can work with that. Because remember that Reaper's colored metallics aren't just flake. They've also got pigment in them. So yeah, you could totally do linen white's probably the best call for it. Or bleached linen if they count that as a white. But yeah, that's exactly what I would do. I would use the red metallic. Unless you want to do a limited, like, if you want to do something with no red, kind of like we've got, you can also do a limited palette with no blue, right? Like this has no blue. So you could totally just use the blue and yellow and drop red out of the equation entirely, and then you've got the metallic to be whatever you need it to be, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it, Quindy. Which is nice because then colors that are fibbers, like Nightmare Black, become a blue for you if you want them to. But yeah, I would use a red metallic. If I was just wanting to paint and have the challenge of like, how can I minimize this shininess of the red metallic? That's what I would do. But yeah, if you want to challenge yourself and drop the red out entirely, you could do like a mermaid or something, and you could go with something else instead of the red. Yeah, that makes sense, Quindy. What I would do with the colors, though, Roger, is completely dependent on the model, right? And you get to choose the model for the color challenge. Am I right? Because the way that I'm going to choose is going to depend on what model I choose. Do I need a red for this model, or can I do without it, right? Is there some way? Oh yeah, when limited palette is really fun, and it makes you think outside the box, Big Chimpo, because you have to figure out how to like do a color gamut that works with the model, with lights and darks and contrast. But then you've also got to figure out creative ways to mix colors. So it's fun. I mean, that's why I really am enjoying that yellow model. Other than that, it's yellow. Yeah, if you choose the model, then it's going to be totally different, right? If there's a model that I want you to do, like if it was a paladin, then I would just go with the blue and yellow. I would drop red out entirely. And I would try to choose a metallic that gave me options. So like I might choose like a bronze, an orangey metallic, because it would be complementary with the blue, and I could use it to shade yellow and do gold, right? So I might do that and do the bronze on the armor. Could probably shade it with some blue, because if it's orangey enough, then it should make a brown to add blue to it. So that's the other thing you have to think about, is how am I going to make brown? How am I going to make a neutral? So that's how I think with limited palette, is what gives me the options to make like either a gray or a brown. What am I mixing skin tones? Do I need a red for that, right? Because with obviously you're going to run into problems if you're painting a paladin with skin that's a standard color, unless you can mix the skin tone with the colors that you chose. So if I was doing that, I would choose a blue and a yellow, and bronze metallic, probably, because I think with the bronze metallic, if it was a reddish bronze especially, maybe even I would choose dwarven gold, because it has red in it. With a little yellow and white, I could probably make a skin color, and might be able, with the blue and the bronze, I might be able to make something that's brown. I'd have to glaze to cut down on the metallic sheen, but I probably could. Well, yeah, as long as it was a yellow or a blue or I don't see why not, Gibson. As long as it's Reaper paint. Although you'd be better off using the modern colors, the modern versions of those colors. Yeah, that's why it's fun, right? That's why it's fun and interesting. Yes, have fun, Carly. Yeah, Kiki's already free. David is out there making a coffee and fending off the Kiki dog. But yeah, so then if you wanted to, that's why it's like, it's almost better to maybe choose a Warforged in that case. So that's the easiest answer. Like you could, given any limited palette that Reaper set you out for, you could make a perfectly good model with it. Just, by going for the easy model choice. Oh, there's no skin tone in this, or no way to really mix one easily. Okay, I'm going to choose something without skin. I'm going to choose a Crusader model with a helmet on, or I'm going to choose, whatever. Yep, that's the problem with paint pots. All right, back to this. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if I could minimize the metallic sheen. I mean, I used to paint with demi metallics all the time, and demis were just in those days, mixing regular paint and metallics to create different shades and highlights for your metallics. And it dulled the shine, but you usually still got a little bit of shine. If you don't want any shine, that would be an interesting time. So I'm doing driftwood brown here, and I'm just mixing it a little bit with my brown liner to get a medium brown here. Yep, yep. Yeah, there's all sorts of ways to do it. Yeah. There's really nothing, like, you really can't make a wrong choice with limited palette. Like, it's, because you're already going to be doing unconventional things, right? So. Now, in reality, I probably should go dark with this netting because everything else, the teal is rather light. But since I lined it so lightly, I'm okay with going kind of medium light with this driftwood. It's also warmer, a warmer color, so it's not so bad. Yeah, there's mono replacements for a lot of the colors. Some of those were limited though, so you wouldn't be able to get them. But I mean, you could get close with a lot. Oh, David's playing with Kiki. I can hear it. He's playing tug with her, I think. She's a happy dog. But yeah, limited palette's fun. It's a challenge, like figuring out how I would do the purple with the yellow model without a blue. And that's where, you know, my background comes in cheaty, because I know that mixing red and any red and black usually gives you a purple, and since I was using magenta, it was already a bluish red, so it was easy to push it toward a more vibrant purple instead of a really dull one. Yes.
Just opening the door back up for...
Oh yes, I heard you playing with the Keekster.
Back in a bit, Pa. Back in a bit.
Where are you off to?
Michael's.
Oh, okay. Going to the craft store without me, guys. I don't know if this man really loves me. I wonder what he's off to get. He's been working really hard on his entries for Adepticon. Where'd he go, Kiki? Yeah, he went to the craft store without us, Kiki. I know. It's not grounds for divorce, but... Yeah, working on it. Are you going to get done, Bryce? Are you going to get done? I know you when you talked to David a couple weeks ago, you thought you were making a run at it. David's working on his privateer one. He decided to... I suggested that he support the Grandmaster too, because they didn't have a lot last year of really good stuff. And they were seriously thinking of canceling it this year, so I'm encouraging people to enter Grandmaster so that Privateer keeps offering the... because their trophies are fantastic. Like, I'm so glad I got one. Oh, you're in big trouble. Yeah, I bet. I'll be out in a bit, Kiki. You're fine. Settle down. I know it's time. Yeah, that's what I've got. Yeah, I got one last year. So, well, but you're really, really, really deep into your monster entry, so... I mean, David and I were talking about your monster entry, Bryce, and we were like, you know, worst case, you actually get a ton of work done on it, decide it's not quite where you want it, and then you're almost done. So for next year, you can definitely finish it, right? The downside is that you won't have time to do anything else, and then you wouldn't have another entry. You wouldn't have an entry a backup entry, so to speak. But yeah, P3 almost, like, they were very hesitant on whether they were going to run the competition again this year because They didn't get a good turnout for last year, so. So anybody out there watching this, get yourself a privateer press model and enter the P3 Grandmaster, because the trophies are very, very monstrously big and pretty. It's one of the prettiest, I think it might be the prettiest trophy I own. I mean, my demons are nice too, but I really think it's a nice trophy. It's really nice and heavy. It's a nice piece. And because many of the big names have already won them, they're not competing. Which is the downside, because when there's not a lot of competition, privateers like, do we even need to do this? Right? But it's on your list. Well, you better cross fingers they do it again next year then, Bryce. And tell people, hey, greetings, Vampire Painting Studio. So tell people to enter the Privateer Press Grandmaster painting competition at Adepticon, all you people who are about. Tell them Privateer was sad last year that they didn't get a lot of entries, and they weren't thinking about canceling it, but we want more competitions in the world, not less, and also the trophy is really cool. So if you have time, and if you're going to Adepticon, or if you know people who are, and who might have time to like paint something else, ask them to paint for Privateer. There's my good deed for the day. Oh, that's too bad, Inara. That's too bad that person was that bigoted. Wow. Yeah, that's just like crap, Inara. That's like one crap person. The guys I met at the booth last year were really cool and loved my piece and were like effusive about, and they were really honest too with feedback. They're like, the one thing we didn't like is blah, you know, but we loved this and we loved this and we loved this. So the guys who were running the booth anyway and running the competition seemed really nice to me. But yeah, if you know anybody who's going, that's my one good deed. But if you, like Inara, have reasons not to ever support them, then that's fair too. I have companies like that for me. There's just sometimes that, and it's a shame, but there's sometimes that somebody particular puts a bad taste in your mouth about a brand, and you're just like, you know what? Screw you and the brand you wrote in on. And that is fair. I just hate to see painting competitions kind of withering up. Like, I want painting competitions to do well because I love them. So, that's just me. Yeah, there are some very stupid people in the world. And I'm sure it was just that one stupid person. But you never know. That stupid person could have been one of the heads of the company. You have no idea, right? That's the thing. It could have been some stupid noob, and it could have been somebody who actually had power, and you've got no way to know. Yeah. Yeah, I had some bad experiences with GW when I worked for them and I was a girl working for them. But they said there was some real suspect stuff that was said about women in the company. So, alrighty. I think that's where we're going to end, guys. We're 10 after. I got the bottle all nice and shinied up, and we at least got those guys filled in. Genie looks fine. It's just I'm kind of like out of like love on him. He's a mini of lost love at this point, I think. Like, and parts of him look so good. Like, parts of him look so good, and then other parts of him, I'm just like, you know? So, Old Spice Genie will be tabled for a while. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back someday. We don't know. Yep. Yeah. I should be streaming tomorrow on my own personal channel. It's twitch.tv/paintingbig. Should be around 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time. And there are all my socials. Yay, socials. And I don't know if I'm going to work more on the freehand. Last time on my show, we were working on mapping out the cool freehand on the back of her thing there, and I need to do this. So yeah, if I feel like doing nice mindless freehand again tomorrow, maybe we'll do some freehand. And if I don't feel like doing it, maybe we'll do some NMM, or we'll go back and work on Anubis, on his bone or on his staff. I haven't decided. It's one or the other, though, so I make steps on both of them. One or the other. No doggy trips. That was the last doggy trip was a good doggy trip. So I'm not actually, Bryce. I am since I'm not going to Adepticon. I am free for the entire spring, like no travel. And I'll tell you, it's such a huge relief because I did so much. There was so much disruption in my schedule over the whole like fall winter period that I'm done with it. So I know we'll have more travel popping up in the summer and a lot in the fall. There's a lot in the fall. So I'm just going to enjoy my springtime and relax and try to get a bunch of stuff done on my book, and which I'm almost done with editing the proof on now, guys. I'm almost done. I did a lot yesterday. I got pushed through a lot of it. So I think feel like I've got maybe 5 or 6 chapters left. I think I can do that today. Nothing on Reaperland. Yeah. So she doesn't know, but probably. It seems to be. So, yeah. Thank you, everybody. All right. So, yeah, hopefully I'll see a bunch of you tomorrow afternoon. And till then, thanks, Bryce. Till then, I'll just bid you all have a great weekend. Bye.